Morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Good to see you all. I think day 8 of our challenge. Hi. New week upon us. So today we're going to get right into our techniques again, but we're going to start adding time to the retentions. And so now we're going to change the ratio. So the ratio has been 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. If you've inhaled for 6, you're holding for 6. You're exhaling for 6, you're holding for 6. And we have been segmenting the breath in. That segmentation was essentially just to give you a sense of the physiology of your breath in, of your puraka, and to give you a sense of how to breathe in deeply. So we're gonna put that to the side now. You're just gonna take a normal breath in. But the new ratio is gonna be 1 to 1.5 to 1 to 1.5. And so if you're inhaling for 6, you're going to hold for 9. Then you're going to exhale for 6 and hold for 9. If you're inhaling for 5, right, the 1.5 version of 5 would be 7.5. You can round up. I would round up, but you can also round down 7 or 8. Exhale 5, hold for 7 or 8. And so what can you expect as you increase the ratio? You can expect a greater intensity of suffocation, a greater buildup of CO2, which is exactly the point. And so before we get into this, I just wanted to explain the validity of holding the breath, mostly from an experiential meditative angle. And so I've been attempting to share the biological reasons for why you might want to hold your breath this intensely. But the main point in terms of yoga, in terms of meditation, is that this intense physiological experience forces the mind to pay attention to the inner body instead of paying attention to the world. And it also forces us to confront the reality of fear and mistrust, right? The complements to that fear and mistrust would be something like faith. The great sort of concept of the yogis and most meditators, especially sort of mystical meditators, versus more pragmatic meditators who just use meditation to relax themselves and interact with an ordinary world. Mystical meditators are attempting to recognize an extraordinary world, and that extraordinary hinges on divinity. And so, one element of divinity is that all things are divine. Divinity is not inclusive. One of my favorite sort of concepts is, if you can't see divinity in everything, then you can't see divinity at all. That's sort of what divinity is. It's everywhere. It's in the eyes of a murderer, and it's in the eyes of a newborn child. It's in the experience of suffocation, and it's in the experience of a full breath in. And so you are prompting yourself to trek into the shadows, to trek into sort of the underworld, just to use the language of mystics, and in that still retain some vestige of faith. What is that biologically, though? Where does fear exist? Where does danger exist to mystics? It only exists in the mind. It exists in the misperceptions of our intellect, the misperceptions of our ego, the misperceptions of our sort of animal instincts that are attempting to protect us. And the only way this makes sense logically, because in reality, literally, there are dangerous things. There are sort of risk factors that could harm us and could, at worst, kill us, and in that we don't get to experience life anymore. But to mystics and yogis, the body is just a vessel, right? So even if the body dies, there's reincarnation, there's the soul, and then we just come back for another round. So that concept of reincarnation and the soul is hugely important in terms of establishing a remarkable faith. The Sanskrit term for this misperception is avidya. We think we're our bodies, therefore when our bodies suffer or are put in a different situation, like too much CO2, we associate with that body, and then we think we are in danger. And so the practical point, pushing the mysticism aside now, is that you are exposing yourself to stress hormones as you hold your breath, and you're going to feel that, and it's going to alter the way you think. You're going to get scared, you're going to get anxious, your willingness to participate in this thing that you chose to participate in is going to crumble, and if you take some time to think about those consequences, the lack of faith, the lack of willingness, you'll see, I think, very quickly how those sorts of emotional tendencies to sort of not do things that we intended for ourselves because there's a challenge in the way, creeps through and represents itself in other parts of our lives as well. And the yogis would say it's not necessarily because you want to do that, it's not necessarily because that's part of your character, it's because you're succumbing to fear existing in the nervous system itself. So by holding your breath for this 1.5 mark, you're going to really get a chance to encounter that part of your nervous system. You're experiencing norepinephrine, that's sort of like a hormone or neurotransmitter that's released into the body, and it's going to alter your confidence. So you don't be swayed by that altered confidence. Just stay loyal to the technique, hence why counting is so helpful. Just stay loyal to the count. Inhale 1, hold 1.5, exhale 1, hold 1.5. All right, cool. So let's get into this. Let's encounter our fear. Let's test our faith. Let's attempt to disassociate from the body, which yogis believe is misperception, and just stay true to your ratios, 1 to 1.5, 1 to 1.5. Cool. Alrighty. It's always good to see you. Comfortable seated position, tall spine, hips shifting forward, wrists resting on knees. And so one way to boost that confidence and essentially sort of force faith physiologically is to sit up tall. And so this is one of the first things we talked about. Shift your hips forward, lift the spine even more, and straighten your arms. Spread your fingers very wide. And now you're sort of like a soldier standing tall in front of like an army or a threat. You're a bullfrog bloating in front of a competitor, and you can feel that confidence. When the CO2 levels build, you're going to sense, if you're still connected to your body, the wilting of posture, sort of the succumbing to fear. Maintain your posture. It's going to help. Spread your fingers wide. Feel the tingling sensation in your fingertips. Just focus on that now. So that sensation is called sukshma, S-U-K-S-H-M-A, sukshma. It's vibrational, and it feels good. And so all sensory experience to yogis, all phenomenon, dissolves into vibration. And that vibration is pleasant. And so if you can lock onto this sensation in your body while you're holding your breath, some part of you will still be connected to a pleasant experience, even as the CO2 levels build and blood is funneled up into the skull and muscles start to tighten. Bring a random finger to each thumb. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. And so just acknowledge this might be hard. If it ever becomes overwhelming, take a few normal breaths in and out, catch your wind, rebalance the blood chemistry, and then resume the technique. But you do your best to stay committed to Kumbhaka for the entire duration. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. Let's find our baselines. So the inhale is no longer segmented. It's a normal breath in. Do the math. What's the 1.5? Okay. Kumbhaka. Inhale for your baseline, hold for 1.5. Exhale, baseline, hold for 1.5. There is nothing to fear. Just be open to the sensory experience. Aim to create as much physiological change as possible. Aim to create as much CO2 buildup as possible. Push as much blood up into your skull as you can. And notice how the state of your body affects your confidence. It affects your patience. It affects your thought process. The rumored words of the Buddha: all creatures love life, all creatures fear death. And you're experiencing that biologically. Your organism and your brain, the organ, are compelling you to breathe. They are responding to the signals of CO2 buildup in tissues. And they are altering the way you interact with the technique that you are curious of, compelling you to move away from the intention. And so this is that instinct to fear death. And an instinct the yogi and most meditators learn to override. So pranayama, especially when it's taken to this extreme, is an initiation into courage. It forces us to confront, overcome, and then ultimately befriend the principal obstacle, fear of death. Focus on the tingling and buzzing sensations inside the body. Try to push back the thoughts themselves, your concepts of what might be happening, your concepts of what this might lead to, and just feel. All right, last round. Inhale for your baseline, hold for 1.5. Exhale for your baseline, and then hold your breath for as long as possible with nothing in your lungs. This is Baya Kumbhaka, external retention. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold for as long as you can. And then breathe normally, letting the mind wander. And as you're breathing normally, to prevent the mind from wandering into regular sorts of thoughts, just appreciate that everything holds value, an extrinsic or intrinsic value. Even the buildup of CO2, even stress hormones, even sitting down and holding your breath, even danger, even fear. Everything is valuable. Nothing lacks purpose. And this is a stepping stone to building true faith. Bring your hands to heart center as always, this game of sincerity. Candid, open-hearted, real. If I don't see divinity in everything, I don't see divinity. If I don't see supreme goodness and worth in everything, I am blind to the perfection of the world. Yogic meditation is about tiptoeing into an extraordinary realm. It's not just about relaxing. It's not just about managing stress. Thumb knuckles to third eye center, pressing your thumbs into the skin of your forehead. Today, delicately, and attempt to feel that nerve sensation and recognize that it is similar to when you were attempting to feel your fingertips. It is similar to the buzz of CO2 building up in the body. And so technically, if you learn to feel that buzzing sensation, all pain is reduced into this sort of comfortable feeling. All pleasure as well is reduced to this common denominator sensation. It's called sukshma. And it becomes a powerful anchor to help you move deeper into this technique, a powerful tool that supports an openness. Sukshma. Release your wrists to your knees, random finger to each thumb, and very quickly attempt to feel, and if nothing else, just imagine the whole body vibrating. Blood coursing through veins and arteries, cells undulating. Release your wrists to your knees, back to your mudras, end with a powerful posture. And with your next inhale, open your eyes and just repeat, I am no longer meditating. Keep your eyes still, looking into the space in front of you, not the object in front of you, and actually sense my state of mind has shifted.